And then audience, you may be seeing. Now, Mom, should they be carrying the flags back there? No, me, I'll help hold the flags. I'll hold the. And now, oh, sit back here, talk about that.
Like the TV's on TV. Like the TV's on TV.
See, it'll do that. Push again. Here. Look, there's no color. Oh, this. They can start.
Oh no. You silly girl. That was great. I had it in my
Why are they so heavy? Why are they so
Oh, it is? I thought that that was someone else's. These people don't think it's
It's 7 o'clock now. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Notice that the clock is still 2 minutes slow in this room. Clerk, will you please check quorum?
Councilmember Lang.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fliger.
Here.
Mayor Daley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, and we have special guests today who are going to present the flag and lead us in the salute too. So come to the podium if you want to use the microphone. See this microphone right there? There you go.
Please stand for the presentation of the colors. Color guard, attention. Color guard, advance. Color guard, post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard dismissed. Audience, you may be seated.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful presentation of the colors. Good job. All right, so we did have a closed session tonight, but council took no action that is reportable. Next, I will look at my colleagues and see if anybody has a change they would like to see to the order of the agenda. Okay? And then next, we'll move to our special item. I have a proclamation, and we are going to celebrate one of the many vital constituencies in our community. Whereas the city of Los Altos is enriched by its diverse cultural, ethnic, and religious landscape, including a significant Hindu American population, and whereas the city of Los Altos appreciates the valuable contributions of Hindu Americans in various fields like education, science, law, medicine, and technology, and acknowledges their profound community service, and whereas the year 2025 marks significant anniversaries related to Hinduism's impact on the United States, including Swami Vivekananda's 1893 address at the World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago, and whereas Hindu Americans and the Vedanta philosophy have significantly influenced notable intellectuals such as President John Adams, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Walt Whitman, J.D. Salinger, Christopher Isherwood, Aldous Huxley, Houston Smith, and Joseph Campbell, and whereas Hindu Americans uphold the principles of pluralism, religious freedom, equality, and justice, and contribute positively to the city of Los Altos' vitality and well-being, and whereas the Hindu community celebrates various cultural events and festivals in the city of Los Altos, including Diwali, which promotes the message of triumph of good over evil and light over darkness, and whereas Hindu Americans are engaged in selfless service known as Seva toward their fellow human beings, which enhances the social fabric of the city of Los Altos, and whereas Ahimsa, a foundational principle of non-harm in Hinduism, aligns with the city of Los Altos' commitment to fostering a community of respect and unity, and whereas, despite their significant contributions to American society, Hindu Americans continue to face increasing instances of discrimination, harassment, Hinduphobia, and anti-Hindu hate crimes, highlighting the urgent need for greater awareness and education and prevention efforts. Now, therefore, I, Pete Daly, Mayor of the City of Los Altos, on behalf of the Los Altos City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2025 as Hindu American Awareness and Appreciation Month in the City of Los Altos, reaffirming our dedication to diversity, inclusivity, and mutual respect. And now I think there are some members of the community here, and I will step forward and hand deliver the proclamation and get some pictures taken too. And perhaps you have some remarks that you want to make, Pawan. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Daley and esteemed members of the Los Altos City Council. On behalf of the Hindu American Foundation and the local Hindu American community, I'm deeply honored to accept this proclamation recognizing Hindu Awareness and Appreciation Month for the second year in a row. Your continued recognition means more this year than ever before. Right now in America, it's a difficult time to be a Hindu. One extreme portrays us as evil oppressors, while the other deems our faith as incompatible with American life. But the underlying message is the same, that somehow we don't belong here. The reality on the ground reflects this hostility. In just the past 2 years, we've witnessed a disturbing pattern of hate crimes against our community. Temples in Chino Hills, Sacramento, Fremont, Newark, and in Hayward have all been vandalized. Many Hindu temples in the Bay Area, including in Santa Clara, Dublin, Fremont, Newark, have been robbed. And in our everyday lives, Hindus in the Bay Area have been spit on, told to eat beef, or even run over by cars simply for being who they are, simply for being Hindu. That's why this proclamation matters. It sends a powerful message that in Los Altos, Hindu Americans belong, that we are seen, valued, and recognized, not as outsiders, but as integral members of this community who have contributed to the fabric of this city and our nation. The millions of Hindu Americans in this country carry forward an ancient tradition that has survived for millennia, not through conquest or coercion, but through the strength of ideas that resonate across cultures and faiths. We are passing down a worldview that sees the divine in all beings and recognizes that truth manifests in countless forms. Hindu Americans are doctors, engineers, educators, entrepreneurs, soldiers, and public servants. We are your neighbors, your colleagues, your friends. And we ask only for what every community deserves, the freedom to practice our faith without fear and the opportunity to raise our children with pride in who they are. Education and awareness remain our most powerful tools against prejudice. When people understand our community, our history, our values, our contributions, stereotypes dissolve and common ground emerges. This year, we've seen this progress firsthand. California recently recognized Diwali as an official state holiday, joining only Pennsylvania and Connecticut. This proclamation is a part of the same movement towards understanding and recognition, and for that, we are very grateful. On behalf of the Hindu American community, I want to express my sincere gratitude to Mayor Daley and the City Council for standing with us. Your recognition reinforces what makes Los Altos special, a community that actively celebrates its diversity. Thank you, and may this Hindu Awareness and Appreciation Month inspire deeper understanding and lasting bonds across our entire community. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to take public comments on items that are not on the agenda. Do we have speakers for items not on the agenda?
I have 2 speaker cards.
Okay. 3 minutes each.
The first speaker is Anjali Sharma Tiwari.
May I begin? Good evening, council members. So my name is Anjali Sharma Tiwari, and I'm a high school senior here in Los Altos. To preface what I'm talking about, I'll first start with, I come from a divorced family. And like many kids, I spent many years shuttling between 2 homes. But the difference here is that my parents live in 2 different cities, both Los Altos and San Jose. So while this might sound manageable, it makes it really hard to build a stable community and a sense of community within Los Altos. Every time I start to feel connected to a neighborhood or a group of friends, it's just time to leave again because every week it's always a rotation. So another challenge is that because of this split home situation, kids like me might not be able to go to school in Los Altos. So we spend time here with one of our parents as they live here. So this is our home and we are residents of Los Altos. But since we're not a part of the local public school system, it can be harder to participate in city programs and fully feel included in the community here. Some activities require enrollment in local schools or a consistent weekly schedule, which many of us just cannot manage or guarantee. So I can assure you that I'm not the only one. There are many other kids like me, and we just don't talk about it because it's something that kind of has a social stigma around it. Many hold back from joining activities and communities because it's hard to commit to a weekly schedule that constantly is changing. Many feel that they don't quite belong because of their way participation is structured and these kind of structured rules that bar them from participating consistently. So that's why I asked the City Council today to consider creating more flexible programs that support students and kids from divorced or separated families. Some ideas can include drop-in style activities that don't require weekly commitments like casual art nights or open gyms or even social communities, peer or support groups, where kids can talk about the different challenges they face in a more collaborative community that's open-minded, and they know that they're not alone. And also accessible therapy or mentorship kind of options where there's trusted adults who can be emotional support for them. So these programs would go a long way towards helping kids like me feel more connected, both emotionally and socially. So when you're constantly moving between different homes, it's easy to feel caught in between two different worlds and feel like you're not really belonging to either of them. So isolation can kind of set in, and that really does impact mental health. I personally have gone through this experience, and although I'm almost done turning 18 at the end of next year, but I do see other students, especially like my brother, having to go through a similar kind of situation. So struggling to find his place and wanting to join in these activities and be part of his community, but finding it really difficult to do so. So that's why I'm speaking here tonight. I hope that we can build systems that make it easier for kids like him and myself, as well as many others, to feel more strongly connected to their community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Caroline Horn.
Caroline, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. First, I want to ask a question. How many of you drove here tonight? If you did, one of you can thank me because I biked, and you can thank me for biking because I left a parking spot for you, just for you. If 10 of us had biked, that would have left 10 parking spots available. So why do I bring this up? My main point is that bike storage tends to be a lot more space efficient than car storage, parking spots. And I bring this up tonight because the Mountain View Los Altos School Board is currently trying to figure out if they really need to convert 4 tennis courts into a new parking lot at the back of the high school over by Jardin Avenue. And I'm here to ask, what can we as a community do to eliminate this perceived need for more parking spaces and fewer tennis courts? How can we encourage our students to use ABC, anything but a car? I think almost everyone would benefit from not having quite so many teenagers driving around our neighborhood streets. I mean, I love teens, but then. And I also feel like it would also be much more empowering for them, both, at every age, 9 through 12, grades 9 through 12, or even younger. So I attended a school board meeting last night, and I got the impression that the school board is very interested in working with the city on trying to eliminate this need. So I'd like to know, what can we and others do to encourage our students to do more biking, more walking, taking more public transportation? So I urge our city council to please work with the school district, as well as the school's Complete Streets Commission, the city's Complete Streets Commission, city staff, and also the neighboring towns of Mountain View and Palo Alto, whose students also attend Los Altos High. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Okay, we generally don't clap for public comments. Okay, so not that we're showing any disdain for any particular commenter by not clapping, but if we don't clap in general for comments, then no one commenter will feel more or less supported by the folks in the room. So sometimes it's hard. Sometimes somebody's going to say something that you just have to clap for. And I get that. But generally speaking, let's maintain the quiet so we can work through the comments. So is that it for the comments for items not on the agenda? Okay. Next, we have the consent calendar, and we'll take public comment for items on the consent calendar, but I will also look to my colleagues to see if there are any items that we want to take off the consent calendar and speak to directly. Does anybody have one that they want to pull? Councilmember Meadows?
So I want to pull agenda item number 7. And I would have a question for my colleagues about item number 6. Do we need to do some clarifications, and that might involve pulling as well? So those were my 2 comments, but I would look at my colleagues for input on 6.
Yeah, what is it? I mean, can you elaborate on your concerns about 6?
I had trouble reconciling what I think we said at council last time and about the blue lines, and some of the blue lines were included and some weren't, when I went through very, very specifically today. And I've had conversations. So I don't want to be the only one that wants to have that conversation, because but I am willing to entertain if someone else also wants to help clarify where we ended up on that. So it looks like Councilmember Lang may say
I'd be willing to support clarification.
clarification. Yeah. And I don't know what that looks like, because it's pretty.
Yeah, there isn't. I mean, that doesn't really fit within regular order. Pulling an item from consent to clarify it. If we're going to deliberate over it, then
Well,
you can pull it. Let's pull
yeah,
it.
I think
it's fine.
pulling it, if it turns out to be just a clarification, or if it turns out to be a deliberation, we'll see how
Okay.
that goes. And
That's fair.
I just feel somewhat responsible, and I wasn't able to reconcile what I saw in the packet.
Okay.
So I
Okay,
would
that's-
like to pull that then,
Sure.
I think, given.
So 6 and 7.
Yes.
We'll treat 6 and 7 in order right after the consent calendar then, and before we go to the public hearing for number 8. So that said, if the public has comments on
Mayor, may I make a
items-
disclosure
Yes.
before you go to public comment?
Please.
Item number 5 on consent is the adoption of a resolution for annual street resurfacing project to enter into a contract. The city had entered a contract with BKF Engineers. About a year ago, I tried a case. BKF Engineering was hired by my client as an expert witness. That case had a final judgment. The time to appeal has expired, so that case is now completely over. I have no further relationship with BKF. I have no stake in whether or not BKF Engineers receives this contract or not, and I have received no information about this item other than what has been available to the public. So with that, I will not be recusing myself, but I did want to disclose that relationship that I have with BKF.
Thank you, Councilmember Weinberg. Okay. Public comment on items 1 through 5 on the consent calendar.
We have no cards for 1 through 5.
Okay. Then I will.
Apologize. It does look like Roberta Phillips. I'm sorry. I thought you were item 6. Hers is listed as none. So
If you're the only commenter, then you have 3 minutes, Roberta.
Hello. I actually was going to request that you pull item number 6. And I think that a lot of times perception is reality. And I think that item number 6 was a collaboration between the.
Roberta, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about 6
so-
separately.
so-
So,
so
if you're
I
going to
can
comment on 6, you do it then, okay?
Oh, okay, I'll do it then. Great,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
then
Okay.
I have no cards.
Minor hiccup, no big deal. All right, so I'll look to my colleagues for a motion to pass the.
I move
items
that
on
we accept
consent.
the consent calendar, 1 through 5.
Second.
Clerk?
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so now we will move on to, oh, yes, and before we start item 6, I think the Vice Mayor has an announcement.
Thank you, Mayor. Because of a potential conflict based on my job with the Office of the Assessor, I will need to recuse myself and leave the city chambers for this item. Thank you.
All right, so there isn't a staff report, but I think maybe the way we want to handle it is questions of staff for clarification. Would that achieve your objective?
Well, let me just explain.
Why don't you kick it
Yeah, and
off?
then
Go ahead.
then we'll see. So so I've had, as I'm sure my colleagues have had, a conversation with folks, and I should mention for my colleagues' benefit, my only concerns with item 6 are simply with the blue lines and which ones. Everything else I'm fine with. So last time I had recommended that we stick with the red line version versus the blue line version, and I still am not convinced that's not the right way to go, but I'm willing to discuss it. And so in the process of trying to do my homework, in addition to talking to residents, today I went through point by point on the September 30th meeting, and maybe Councilmember Lang did the same, he's nodding, compared to today's. And I saw that, and probably because perhaps we called them out specifically in the meeting. So some of the blue line edits are included in what is in front of us today for the second reading, and some are not. And so I just wasn't really clear. And I would think that most of the blue line edits aren't substantive, but I know, and so maybe it doesn't matter, but there were a few that I thought might be substantive, so I wanted to focus on that. I don't want us to go through a wordsmithing exercise, which is why last time I said I weigh in on the red without the blue lines, but then I'm not quite sure where we are. So what I would do is ask Councilmember Lang then what his impression is, since he seemed to be maybe aligned along those lines.
Yeah, so I was inclined last time to accept the blue lines. There was discussion in the dais where 3 out of the 4 did not want to. So be it. I thought, I don't think they're of major impact on the outcome. So my favoring including them was in a way sort of a meta issue, in that we encourage the residents to engage with city staff to provide feedback ahead of time, because oftentimes trying to deal with detailed feedback during a council meeting is difficult for them, difficult for the process. Feel that people had done that and that staff had come forward with them. And I thought a good example was the one that called out that the new additions to the Mills Act ordinance can't be applied retroactively to old contracts. That, of course, is true. You can't go back and unilaterally change contracts, but I saw no harm in including it, which is the kind of thing that made me supportive of the blue lines. That said, you know, I think it's important to make progress. 3 out of the 4 up here felt it was better without the blue lines. I definitely could live with that, which is why I voted yes last time. That's about where I am still.
So you said you would still favor the blue lines. And what I'm trying to avoid here is for us going through all the blue lines. And I think we didn't support them. But I do want some clarifications on the 2 that I felt were more important. And that might have been different between what we're looking at tonight.
Okay,
Is that
so,
what I-
so Councilmember Meadows, I'm going to stop you right there because what
Okay.
we need to do is we need to hear from the public because we're not
Oh, yes,
asking
right.
questions
Okay,
right
you-
now.
okay, I thought we opened-
I thought
okay.
we were going to have
Okay.
questions of staff to clarify some things and.
Okay,
but
well,
since
I
these aren't-
do
You're right,
actually, okay.
Well,
sorry.
you,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
still ask your
Okay,
clarifying
go ahead,
questions, but
go
I
ahead,
want to go to
yes.
public
Go
comment
right
now because we're veering into we're veering into discussion. So let's get the public on the record first. So, do we have speakers for this topic?
Yes, we have 6 speakers. However, we do have 2 members of the public requesting cede time to 1 other speaker.
Okay, well, we'll do a minute each, and that means the maximum seated time would be 5 if there's 5 minutes if there's 4 people seating time.
Correct. Correct.
We're going to have 1 minute comments, and the limit for the person to whom time is being ceded is 5 minutes, regardless of how many people cede time. It may not reach 5 minutes if he doesn't have 4 people seating time. If he has 2 people seating time, it will be a 3-minute comment.
Okay, then the first speaker is John Baer.
Okay. And I assume that
Then
John has some
the
people
seated
seating.
time, so he will receive 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Everyone else will receive 1 minute.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, you have to listen to me for 3 minutes. Thank you for pulling this agenda item. It is appreciated. I'm going to reiterate what you may be aware of, but I think it's worth going through briefly, which is the blue line changes were based on a extensive discussion between Milsac property owners, Nick and Gabe. We went through a lot of potential changes. Most were rejected by city staff, and the ones that you see in the blue lines were ones that city staff said, yes, we will support. And as a footnote, when this matter came to the Historical Commission was very clear at the time that they wanted the Milsac property owners to work with city staff to deal with the minutia. And I'm sorry if you folks are dealing with it. Designing from the dais is a really bad thing. And so, you know, hopefully you won't be in that mode. But these are important changes. Larry points out correctly, some of them are minor, but some of them seem minor but are important nonetheless. As an example, if somebody wants to tear down my house, which is a Milsac property and a city landmark, because of a fire or an earthquake, you know, that may be warranted by city fire marshal, but I sure as heck would like to have them put that in writing so somebody is accountable for that. And I would think the city would want that too. That's just an example. There are numerous changes in the Historic Preservation Ordinance and in the Mills Act Ordinance. They were discussed. I believe, you know, Gabe and Nick can say with a straight face that in fact they did support them, and that's why they were there. They were shown in blue line just so the council could understand the changes from what was originally presented to the Planning Commission. So I would urge you to accept them. If you have questions, please ask them of staff. If I can clarify any of them, I'm happy to do so. Unfortunately, I know more about this stuff than I really want to, but that's what happens when you get into the minutia. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
The next speaker is Roberta Phillips.
So as I started to say,
1 minute.
one more, as starts, and that's all I need. Before is a lot of times perception is reality, and the blue line version was an agreed upon, as John Barrett just said, set of changes that are important to people who are living this every single day and have contributed to our community in relationship to improving properties, improving their block, and I think I'm asking that you include the blue line because I think it would show the cooperation between the residents of Los Altos and city staff and the city council. And I think that that's really needed at this point, so that people feel that not only they're being listened to, but they do have input, and that if it's an agreed upon thing that, because I think there was confusion. So I would appreciate if you would consider just accepting the blue line version. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Kurt Riffle.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Riffle. I live at 151 Hawthorne Avenue in a 1922 historic resource home. I'm an elected official, but my comments this evening are as a private citizen. I recommend the council members accept the blue line edits. And here's the reason that I think that those should be considered. They reflect the direction from the Historical Commission for a group of citizens to work with staff to address these concerns. There are mutually agreed upon modifications to two very productive citizen staff working sessions. These blue line edits have produced better and more workable ordinances. These blue line edits are not trivial, and they impact not only existing Mills Act owners, but also future Mills Act owners who might consider preserving their historic home. City Council should encourage knowledgeable residents and staff to work collaboratively to produce more effective policies and procedures in Los Altos. Not considering the results of the excellent work by your staff and constituents sends the wrong message to both. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Catherine Nunes.
Hi, good evening, Catherine Nunes. I'm here tonight to speak not to the Blue Line and to the Mills Act ordinance that was covered, but I'm here to speak to the Historical Preservation Ordinance, which was a separate matter and a distinct city action. No one in Los Altos wants a dismantling of historic and environmental protections. And the purpose of a historical preservation ordinance is to align with the best principles and stewardship of history and cultural assets for today and in the future. These include not just buildings, but lands, natural resources, and historic objects noted in our general plan. The Council's action tonight to waive the second reading of the new Historical Preservation Ordinance and adopt these ordinances without a formal review by the Historic Commission or a justification on the intent and purposes of these new ordinances, which many pieces are missing from the original ordinance, seem out of step with your commitment as governing representatives of Los Altos. Please send it back to Historic Commission and do the right thing. Thank you.
The last speaker I have is Lois Bayer. Oh, I have one more after that.
Good evening. I'm here to urge you to please accept the blue line changes that were proposed. They were agreed upon by staff with members of the community, as you well know, and for all the other reasons that have been set forth here tonight, I would certainly urge you to accept those. Thank you so much.
The last speaker is Maria Bautista.
Good evening, I'm Maria Bautista, and I would like tonight to urge you to reconsider the ordinances at a future meeting. The process has been rushed and confused, and I don't think that any of us can say with absolute certainty that we know that these changes and new ordinances will not negatively impact our historic resources and landscapes. And furthermore, I actually believe you shouldn't vote tonight because there's additional confusion. The minutes from September 30th suggest that what you were choosing to adopt were the June 5th, the version of the ordinance on June 5th when the Planning Commission reviewed it. But the ordinance as it is in your packet as part of the resolution tonight is actually a different ordinance. It's the one from September 30th. And those two things are different and unique. And so I'm not really certain that you're certain what this vote actually is voting for. Without that clarification as well. So again, I would urge you to move to reconsider this at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it? Okay, City Attorney, you look like you want to weigh in?
I was going to make some comments about some of the letters, but I won't because I'm not sure where this is going to go, and if I don't know if I need to put it on the record. But there's one thing I'd like to clarify for the public, because members of the public met with staff and went through some changes, and they believe that there was some approval by staff. It's not approved, and I know you know, but the public needs to know, until you vote on it, it's not approved and it's not going to be binding as a local statute. And so, although people may think, oh, well, we did get buy-in from the staff, it's not buy-in until you vote on it. The other thing is if all these blue lines are going to be accepted tonight, I believe it will be, we may need to reintroduce, because there are some substantive changes, and when a may becomes a shall or a shall becomes a may, that's significant. And there are, and I've gone through it and I've seen some of the changes that were not accepted, and if they're put back in, it will be a substantive change that will need a reintroduction. So I think you need to think about that in your deliberations as well.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Weinberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the city attorney regarding a public comment that we received over the past several days. A member of the public submitted a public comment saying that, affirmatively stating that the votes are there to accept the blue lines. Now, I personally did not talk with that resident. However, that public comment communicated to me that apparently others have told her that they're going to vote in favor of the blue lines. So I'm concerned whether that public comment has created a Brown Act violation.
Well, I'm not aware of who said what, but again, as all the trainings that I've given to the council and the commissions is, when you meet with members of the public, you never say how you're going to vote or how you're going to commit to vote, because that member of the public can do just what happened in that situation and start counting votes and saying, hey, guess what? I think you've got the votes, or I know you have the votes. And a Brown Act violation can occur by a member of the public that is trying to obtain a consensus of the body, even though they're not a member of the bodies, because a member of the public can serve as an intermediary for a Brown Act violation. So I'm just cautioning public, and I'm cautioning the council that you need to be very careful about that.
Okay, so given that affirmative representation, are you still comfortable with moving forward?
Yes, because all your deliberations will now be at a public meeting, and the vote will be taken at a public meeting, and anything that could be a violation would be cured with this vote.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may add on to Councilmember Weinberg's statement, that statement by a member of the public could not possibly be true, because I have not spoken with that member of the public, and you stated that you have not either. And so therefore, by definition, we don't have a majority with 4 council members weighing in on this. So that statement was false anyway, just for the record.
I didn't speak to that member of the public either. So
Okay, well, very false.
okay, so
All right, so
I'm going to turn the ball over
yes,
to you,
yeah.
Councilmember Meadows, and let you sort of
Right.
run with it a little bit.
So I found, and actually this has been since I spoke with the members of the public who I did speak with, and who I did not indicate how I was going to vote, because I didn't know anyway. But I found, as I went through point by point today, and Mr. Baer and Mr. Riffle, this kind of applies to you since we last spoke, that there were a lot of what you asked for in there. So I don't know if you did that same exercise. It's kind of tedious. It involves looking at a lot of different things. And so given that, there's only, I don't want to go backwards and put all the blue lines in, because most of them are there already, except the ones that I think were the biggest issues, which maybe explains why we didn't give direction last time to incorporate it. So I'm inclined to stick with what we have in our packet tonight, which is the second reading. Isn't that correct, City Attorney? We are not bypassing a second reading. Another comment that was made tonight, we're having it as we speak right now. So, so I'm willing to vote to approve this agenda item that I pulled, and I appreciate us having the conversation to clarify both some of what we're hearing and some of the questions that I had. Oh, can I ask for one more thing, City Attorney? Do you also want to read into the record the Office of Historic Preservation's satisfaction with our? I don't know. I think it would be valuable just because, you know, I don't know who. It's in the Q&A, or city manager.
City manager
or do you
can
not
do it.
want it?
If
Actually, mayor doesn't.
If it's in the Q&A, it's in the record.
We
So
brought
I
it
think-
up at the last meeting that we had.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it did go to Office of Historic Preservation before the ordinance
Yes.
was introduced. We heard back that they had no comments or concerns, and so they had no problem with us moving forward with the ordinance as written.
That's fine. And if it's
Okay.
in the Q&A, it's part of the record.
All
and,
right.
And people can find it if they need to. I will say on the blue line edits, you know, we all have a tendency to believe what we think, right? And sometimes I read something and I think, well, that doesn't sound very good, and I could make it sound better. But ordinances are written by people who write ordinances, right? And so the one line, for example, the blue line, one line that says, these changes shall not impact current contract holders, that is a nice to include line, but it is superfluous language because that's already controlled by governing law and is unneeded in that ordinance. So I'm not yet convinced that there's anything in those blue lines that makes the ordinance definitively better enough to undo a vote that has already taken place. So that's where I am now. I'm open to being further convinced, you know, because I also don't find anything in the blue lines to be offensive or burdensome. But I just don't feel compelled by what I've read there. So, Councilmember Weinberg?
I'm in the same place as Councilmember Meadows, and I think where you are too, Mayor.
Okay, I'll just say that I want to thank Councilmember Meadows for pulling it. I felt that it was appropriate for one of the people who had wanted to move on without the blue lines to be a person to pull it. So I appreciate you doing that because I think it was appropriate for us to have this conversation. At the end of this conversation, I think we find ourselves in the same place. I would have probably preferred to include the blue lines, but I most of all want to make progress and get this done. We've had the first reading. This is the second reading. I think we should go and get it done and not let the good or the perfect become the enemy of the good.
And
All right.
Mayor, I
Yes,
would like
City
to,
Attorney.
since I'm not commenting on the letters, I can comment that we did get 3 letters from the same firm raising the same issues about CEQA, and I'm finding that they were not supported by any substantial evidence as defined in the CEQA guidelines. I can go into more detail about that. But I would like to also state for the record that in the environmental impact section, it says, additionally, the proposed amendments are designed to preserve and protect existing and future historic resources that already exist today or do or will qualify as historic resources within the city. And as set forth in section 14.93010, the purpose and findings section, and also in 14.95020, that the purpose and effect of these changes or amendments are to help preserve and restore, and maintain historic resources. And I would like that added just for the record about these proposed amendments. They're not changing anything, and they're actually furthering the intent of historic preservation, which is outlined in the 2 sections of the code.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to approve.
Mayor, we
Or
will need
to,
4 motions tonight.
4 motions, 4 distinct actions on each of those bullet points, and hoping that my expert motion-making colleague will lead us on this.
Well, I wonder if she who pulled it has an
Oh,
obligation.
okay. I can. I was wondering if you don't want, if you want me to, I will attempt to do that. So it's not written in front of me. Okay, so I move that we adopt do I have to say by the second reading, through the second reading?
Yes, it's waive second reading and adopt an ordinance.
Okay. I move that we waive second reading and adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Altos, adding Chapter 14.93 to the Los Altos Municipal Code.
Second.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 with Vice Mayor Flagger recused.
Okay. I move that we waive second reading and adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Altos, adding Chapter 14.95 Mills Program to the Los Altos Municipal Code.
Second.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 with Vice Mayor Flagger recused.
I move that we waive second reading and adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Altos repealing in its entirety Chapter 12.44 for existing historic preservation regulations.
Second.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 with Vice Mayor Flagger recused.
And finally, I move that we waive second reading and find that the proposed amendments are exempt from environmental review pursuant to Section 15061B3 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines.
Second.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 with Vice Mayor Flagger recused.
Okay, so,
Should I get Vice Mayor Flagger?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, okay.
yeah, please. So the next item on our agenda is number 7, adoption of a resolution to amend the contract with the Los Altos Chamber of Commerce. City Manager, maybe I could impress upon you to just give us a very quick thumbnail sketch of what we are being asked to approve.
Mayor, the City Council entered into a contract with the Chamber of Commerce in exchange for the funds in question tonight. The Chamber of Commerce would produce and distribute a magazine focused on business expansion and retention. Last year, due to some complications, the Chamber was unable to produce the magazine as agreed upon in the contract, but would like to produce it now. And this contract amendment, if approved by the council, would allow them to continue with the second magazine of the contract, as well as provide funding in the current year for the third magazine in the contract.
First, I'm going to see if any of my colleagues have clarification questions, and then we'll go to the public for comment. Any questions? All right, we may have some questions that come up in the deliberation itself. So are there any public comments? Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council for deliberation. And Kim, if you could, would you kindly come up and join us for this discussion? And if you could just identify yourself when you approach the microphone.
Sure. I'm Kim Mosley, president of the Los Altos Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. So my first question is, within the bounds of what you can disclose, what happened? Why didn't the magazine get published?
So, as was mentioned in the letter that was submitted to council and to the city manager, we have a small staff at the chamber, and there were health issues related to a staff member, and so it wasn't completed in the bounds of the annual year. So we're just asking for an exception in order to still deliver the magazine. Much of the content is fully complete and is almost ready to go to print. So we're just asking for permission to allow that printing to happen now and then to fulfill the terms of this year's contract later in the year. I have a statement too that I could share after I answer questions or before if you'd like.
Now it's fine. You can go ahead and read the statement, and then if anybody has questions, they'll ask.
Okay. So the Los Altos magazine is so much more than a business publication. It's our community's storybook and a destination guide welcoming visitors to our community. It celebrates the incredible diversity of people and programs that make Los Altos special, from our schools and hospitals to our local businesses and nonprofit organizations. Every issue shares stories of innovation, excitement, and civic pride, helping residents feel informed, inspired, and connected to one another. Our goal has always been to lift up every corner of the community to make sure that everyone sees themselves reflected in the images and stories of these pages. The chamber covers the expense of creating the written content, design, layout, and inclusive photography, and more. We do this for a cost to the city of $2 per copy for printing, a small investment that yields an outsized return in the community engagement and inclusion. Due to an unexpected staff illness, we're simply asking for an adjustment to our printing schedule. It's not about asking for additional funding, but just about the flexibility of the schedule. The chamber remains fully committed to producing this beloved publication. We just need your understanding so that we can continue to deliver the same high-quality resource that our residents have come to expect. Your support tonight helps us to keep telling the stories that bind Los Altos together, stories of excellence, compassion, and community spirit. Thank you for your partnership and for believing, as we do, that Los Altos is at its best when everyone feels seen, valued, informed, and connected.
Okay, so I will look to my colleagues and see if anybody has thoughts they want to share or questions that they have for Kim or for staff.
So I pulled it. So
Yeah.
if you want me to go
You can
first,
start.
I
Go
will
ahead.
do so. So good to see you.
Thank you, Sally.
So yes, this is a beautiful publication. It serves us all well. And the reason I pulled this is I don't see the point in doing this now, whenever now is, let's say by the end of the calendar year, and then doing it again in 6 months. I mean, I just don't see the point in that. So I would suggest you do it now, and then we skip a year and we adjust the contract. I don't know why we'd update this supposed annual publication in 6 months or less. And then if you needed, that might give you some more time. You could, instead of just by the end of this year, you could maybe do it by March or whatever. We could decide on that. But I just can't support back-to-back publications.
Understood.
So.
I tend to agree, and I'll come to you next, Vice Mayor. But even more so, in the digital age that we occupy, I wonder if a print magazine, a glossy, beautiful publication that's only some percentage of the copies we print will actually get read, because I know where some of them end up, and that's sitting on my coffee table until 6 months later, and I go, oh, well, that's old. I can throw it away now. So I would be open to sort of taking up the question of whether or not we should do 2 to catch up, or if maybe we do 1 and that's the swan song, and we start to look in different directions for ways to use those resources to benefit the business community. And I don't know what those ways might be, but that's why we like partnering with the chamber. Thanks. So, Councilmember Weinberg.
I think Councilmember Meadows' comments make sense. I'm on board with that. In terms of your suggestion of not having this be print anymore, I would need to noodle on that a little bit. I'm not ready to go that far tonight.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. England, just to get some, or City Attorney as she walks out the door, just to get clarification on the agreement we have with the Chamber, the 5-year term agreement. So based on what Councilmember Meadows said, and I completely understand her point, if this contract goes out for 5 years, how many more magazines would we be left to cover? Is it 3? I can't remember what year we're in. Are we in year 2 of the contract?
I believe this was year 2 as a magazine that was missed. Year 3 would be the next one that was published, and then 4 and 5 would be the out years.
Okay. And then my follow-up to that is, and I think this is specific to the city attorney, does the agenda item tonight allow us to have this discussion about revisiting the contract, the term, and what it allows for?
It doesn't. And I can answer that.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure before I addressed your point.
What we're taking up is basically a resolution to give them an extension,
right?
On the publication. But if we choose not to, then we would want to bring something back on the agenda to completely reassess the full question, right? So it's an up or down, yes or no on the extension right now, basically, and that's it. We can talk about other things that might influence our decision on that choice, but that's really the only choice before us tonight.
Right. Okay. So then that's what I thought. So that's why I wanted it confirmed on the record. So I'll hold, if it comes back to have that broader discussion, which I would actually support, then we can talk about, how we would amend if there's support for that and what that would look like. But for purposes of tonight and the limited ask from the chamber, I definitely am supportive of the request to allow them through the calendar year to publish this magazine, and then we can revisit the rest of the contract. Thank you.
I'm in the same place as Councilmember Meadows. I don't see the reason to print 2 in 1 year. It's an unfortunate bit of timing, but here we are. I think the money is best reserved.
And Mayor, sorry. I was going to clarify, the calendar year is not the fiscal year. So the fiscal year, there was no, so we can phrase it in such, so to be clear, so we can phrase it in such a way that fiscal year 3, what you produce in the near term will be for fiscal year 3, or contract year 3, let's call it that, for clarification. But I'm not willing to support the resolution tonight, because as it's written, it talks, it lays out the 2 things, so.
Yeah, so if we're not ready to support the resolution as it's written, it's going to have to come back to us in another form. And there really isn't a way to say we're going to do 1 and not 2 editions of the magazine under the resolution that's before us.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
But my understanding is if we were to decline to pass this resolution, it's a new year. There's a contract in place. That one's just gone, and the month.
No, the chamber is still responsible for delivering on the contract, and so, absent a remedy from council, they would be obligated to either repay the money or deliver the magazine.
Mayor, it sounds like all of us on the dais are more or less in agreement. And what I'm hearing from the chamber president is they're pretty much ready to go to print. What about the idea of passing this resolution tonight and then bringing back another amendment in accordance with what we've talked about up here, and that amendment could be on consent for our next meeting?
I don't favor that because I think we need a fulsome discussion. So I wouldn't favor putting anything on consent unless it's a really straightforward, very simple, like, grant an extension on the delivery of the magazine, you know. But as far as changing the expectations and the requirements in the contract, I think that would be a rather robust discussion that we should all, you know, talk to folks in the community about and go through the normal process on. So what I think is going to happen here tonight is that we're not going to have a motion to pass this, and so it will fail for lack of a motion. But then what I would like to do is immediately bring something back that would allow the chamber to get the magazine published this time, and no more than that, and then have a second bite at the apple where we have a more comprehensive discussion about if we want to pay for the magazine going forward, and if we instead want to spend the money on some other method of promoting business in our community. So, City Manager, does that make sense as guidance to you?
Yes, Mayor. I think just as a point of clarification, the Chamber's received the funds for the Year 2 magazine, so if there is not a motion tonight, or it's voted down, the Chamber could continue and publish the Year 2 magazine, and then Council could discuss changes prior to funds being sent for the Year 3 magazine.
That works too. So either way, we're not taking action at the moment. Okay? All right. Thanks, Kim. All right, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing. So item number 8, the 2025 Los Altos Building Code updates. And we've got 3 separate actions for council, and we'll start with a staff report probably, right?
Yes, Mayor. We'll have our building official give a presentation when she's ready.
We're just going to pull up the presentation. So good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Veronica Tinoco, building official. I have a few introductions I'd like to do before we get started with the presentation. So next to me is Tanya Kotby. She is our sustainability management analyst. To the left of me is Brad Fox. He's with Santa Clara County Fire. And then in the crowd is Anthony Yulo. He's from Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And online we have Taylor from TRC. So tonight we're going to be talking about the adoption of the 2025 California Building Standards Codes. Some background on the adoption is we are required to do this by law every 3 years. It's mandatory that each local jurisdiction adopt the updated standards that will go into effect January 1 of 2026. So these are the codes that we're considering tonight. The green ones do not have any new amendments to them. They have amendments that have been carried over from the 2022 code cycle. And the ones that you see in purple have some new amendments, or Part 7 is actually a new code entirely. So Part 7, just quickly, is the California Wildland Urban Interface, also known as the WUI code. The code consists of parts of the fire code and parts of the building code to create one code. So it's not new information, it's just extracted from those 2 codes. So a little bit about AB 130. It was passed earlier this year, and it puts a 6-year pause on any local amendments. However, there is an exception that allows local code amendments, as long as it meets these 3 requirements here, aligns with a general plan that was approved before June 10th of 2025, which we have, and that it permits mixed fuel residential construction, which it does, and it incentivizes all electric construction as part of an adopted greenhouse gas emissions reduction strategy. So now we're going to talk about what these local amendments are. So this is going to be the local amendments to our energy code. So what we're looking to do tonight is two different ordinances. One is for two-way AC and the other one is the electric readiness. So the two-way AC is going to be at the time of installation. So this is going to apply to someone that wants to install a new air conditioner or replace their existing air conditioner. So the two options would be to install a heat pump or install your traditional air conditioner alongside a gas furnace, and you would have to make additional energy improvements. So there was a cost effectiveness study done for the two-way AC. It was completed by California Statewide Codes and Standards Program, and it does show that two-way AC amendments are cost effective. So some of our neighboring jurisdictions have also adopted the two-way AC. That would be Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Palo Alto, San Mateo, and Portola Valley. And this list will continue to grow as cities take their ordinances to their councils. So the next one is an electric readiness. So this is at the time of renovation. So this one is going to be for if they are doing kitchen remodels, whole house remodels, if they're doing any kind of renovation in their garage, it would apply to the gas stove, the gas dryer, the furnace, and water heater. So if you did an alteration in that area, you would have to pre-run some wires or some conduit to be ready for future electrification if you're not already electrifying. So this is an example for an electric readiness for kitchens. So if they, again, apply for a kitchen remodel permit, they would they'd have to install the breaker space and a conductor or a conduit or raceway. So here are some of the cities that have adopted the electric readiness: Atherton, Fairfax, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Portola Valley, San Anselmo, San Mateo, and Sunnyvale. And again, this list will continue to grow as cities take their ordinances to their council. And there are rebates and incentives available for electrification through SVCE. And the city of Los Altos is also doing a local rebate that will be coming soon. 1, 2, and 3 are our recommendations for council tonight. And that concludes the presentation for the adoption of the 2025 California Building Standards Codes. And staff is available for any questions.
Okay, so first we'll see if my colleagues have any questions, and then we'll go to public comment. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, and thanks for that presentation. Very excited to see this item on our agenda, and thanks to SVCE and our representative on SVCE for all the work that I'm sure went into this before it came to us this evening. Just a question for SVCE. I don't know if Tony's able to just explain for the benefit of our residents how the SVCE rebate program works. And whether or not there's an expiration, a cap, just so that we can, if it passes, we can quickly take advantage of your rebate program.
Certainly, Vice Mayor. Tony Ulo from Silicon Valley Clean Energy, or SVCE. And yes, we do have the rebate program, and it's very simple. We also offer all kinds of technical assistance along with it to guide people through the process. But we have a contractor. We turn those rebates around relatively quickly. Naturally, it's an online process if someone wants to do it that way. And they get a check back. It's a pretty simple process. Yes. And as I said, there's a couple different pathways because some people choose to do things in different ways. But we really aim to assist people and meet them where they are to get through the process.
If there are no other questions, we'll go to public comment.
We have 2 speaker cards.
Okay, let's do 2 minutes each.
The first speaker is Dawn Bray.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Don Bray, a 35-year resident of Los Altos. And during that time, I think it was 2008 to 2017, I served on the Environmental Commission, and that included as chair and vice chair. I just wanted to briefly express my strong support for staff's recommendation here tonight. These are good, common sense proposals. They're low cost. They're done at a time when it's logical to do this type of work. There are incentives available. Strongly support your consideration of this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I asked Mr. Bray, don't you have a disclosure of your recent retirement status from?
From Silicon Valley Clean Energy.
Okay.
But no, I'm a private citizen now.
Yes, you are, but
I can opine it well.
a very learned private citizen. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next.
The next speaker is Connie Miller.
Great.
As a dog park lover, I still have to say I'm so glad that I've gone before that item because I see a lot of people behind me on that. I'm here speaking on behalf of Greentown, and we strongly support this amendment. I personally have read all 24 of the attachments and the code in full, and it makes a lot of sense and it's a no-brainer. We request that you waive further readings and adopt it without changes tonight. They begin to standardize the codes across multiple cities, making it easier for our contractors. They still give the homeowners a choice as to whether to go gas or electric, but it helps them in the future if they want to go, or future homeowners of that home to upgrade. What I especially like is it promotes what I call amperage neutral upgrade and load balancing that today's newer appliances can offer. So many upgrades of panels aren't necessary. And then finally, by putting in the electrical infrastructure, it creates kind of a teaching moment for those homeowners to consider electrical. And it could be further amplified if the city were to provide materials encouraging electrification at the time of permit pulling, and Greentown is willing and able to provide those materials for you. In addition to supporting these building codes, I ask that you pair them with the city offered $1,000 rebate on all heat pumps, both for space heating and water heating. That'll help offset any upfront costs differential between the gas and electric. We know from watching our neighboring cities that this accelerates that adoption, and also that unless we adopt more heat pumps in this city, we're never going to achieve our cap goal. Finally, having just gone through the process of upgrading to a heat pump water heater myself, thank you for the rebate, SVCE. I want to comment that the permit on the front end was awesome. It came right away. But on the back end, once the heater was installed, I was given a month, 2 months out. I was given a date 2 months out to get the final. And as such, it's going to put at risk a $42.50 rebate from the state of California for full home electrification. So a little bit bummed about that. But the more important thing is please adopt this amendment. It's really important for the city in achieving all of our goals to be a sustainable, vibrant community.
Thank you, Connie. Okay. If there's no more public comment, I'll bring it back to council for deliberation. Most of us, I think, have reviewed all this material and have been supportive of these initiatives for a long time. And that's about all I personally need to say about it. Councilmember Meadows.
Yes, so I'm very supportive of this. I thank our team, very learned ladies. We have a lot of learned people in the audience today, and also our partners at SVCE. I want to point out And actually, Tanya or City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong. Attachment 23 of our many attachments for this agenda item is a summary of compliance requirements. And for those wondering, if using and I see if I phrase this correctly, Tanya, follow what I say so you can correct it if need be. Table 1 shows that if you use a heat pump both ways, where your unit to replace your air conditioning does also heating as well, then actually we have added no codes. All the codes that apply to that scenario are state building codes, which are obligated to adopt anyway. Isn't that correct? Veronica is nodding. Right. So we're adding nothing to that. We are adding some additional local codes in the requirement if you want to maintain your furnace potentially for fallback heating or for whatever reason. And then there are some additional local code requirements, which I won't go into. And that is correct too?
That is correct.
That is correct. Okay. So, but I think what was important to point out is that the requirements for a two-way heat pump are actually defined by the state. Okay. And I said I'm fully in support of this. I think it's a great step forward. We can finally take a step forward. Feels like we've been kind of treading water for a while. So this is good. I'm done. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. Councilmember Weinberg?
No, I'm ready to make motions if you're ready to entertain them.
Councilmember Lang?
I personally like to go further, faster, but I think this is what we can do within the law, so here we are. I particularly want to underline, I think it's important. I was glad to see the match up with some of the neighboring cities. And I think that's particularly important because the contractors that we use to get this work done work across city boundaries. So having some consistency there, I think, helps streamline the process. And so I'm appreciative of that. I think it makes a lot of sense. I also look forward to seeing the incentives, but that's not tonight.
We will need to bring that back and contemplate what we're going to do there. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to pass this.
I move that the City Council adopt by title only and waive first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Altos repealing in its entirety Title 12 for building and construction of the Los Altos Municipal Code as amended per the Q&A, and that we find that this is categorically exempt from CEQA.
Second.
I would like to note that that's not to adopt, it's to introduce.
We're introducing it tonight. We're going to waive reading.
Okay,
introduce.
introduce.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, point of clarification from our staff, the next motion is kind of long.
Yep.
The whole thing has to be read?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Did you come up with this title? Because if so, I don't know if I want to waive the reading of it.
Not. I can read it if you would like me to, and then you.
It's 100 pages. I move that the council adopt by title only and waive first reading, introduce and waive first reading of, by title only, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Altos, adding Title 12 for building and construction to the Los Altos Municipal Code, including chapters 12.04, 12.06, 12.08, 12.10, 12.12, 12.14, 12.16, 12.18, 12.20, 12.22, 12.24, 12.26, 12.28, 12.30, 12.32, 12.34, 12.36, 12.38, and 12.40, to adopt by reference with local amendments to the following: 2025 California Administrative Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.04. 2025 California Building Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.06. 2025 California Residential Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.08, 2025 California Electrical Code, published by the National Fire Protection Agency, Chapter 12.10, 2025 California Mechanical Code, published by the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials, Chapter 12.12, 2025 California Plumbing Code, published by the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials, Chapter 12.14, 2025 California Energy Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.16, 2025 California Wildland-Urban Interface Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.18. Where was I? 2025 California Historical Building Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.20. 2025 California Fire Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.22. 2025 California Fire Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.24. 2025 California Green Building Standards Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.26. 2025 California Reference Standards Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.28, Chapter 12.30, Penalty for Expired Permits. 2024 International Property Maintenance Code, published by the International Code Council, Chapter 12.32, Property Maintenance Code. 1998 Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings, published by the International Conference of Building Officials, Chapter 12.34, Abatement of Dangerous Buildings. The 1998 Uniform Housing Code, published by the International Conference of Building Officials, Chapter 12.36, Housing, Chapter 12.38, Undergrounding Utilities, and Chapter 12.40, Floodplain Management, together with certain amendments, additions, insertions, deletions, and changes thereto, as amended per the Q&A, and that we find this is categorically exempt from CEQA.
And I'll do the heavy lifting here and second that motion.
Oh, yeah, but before we call the question, clerk, would you read that motion back?
No. I'll
Good answer.
I'll confirm.
Go ahead and call the
Councilmember
question.
Lang,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger.
And of course, Councilmember Weinberg, if the law profession doesn't work out, I think you have a future in auctioneering. Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, and I'm trying to find the third one.
It's
And
just to
I
direct
think I have the third thing.
direct
If-
staff.
Yes, and I move that we direct staff to place introduced ordinances on the October 28th, 2025 meeting agenda for a public hearing, waiving of second reading and adoption.
Second.
Councilmember Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows.
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger.
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Motion carries. And I do want to clarify the reason why this is coming back for adoption at a public hearing is because this is being adopted by reference, which is a separate, it's different than a normal ordinance.
Okay, so next we'll go to our first discussion item, which is item 9, to approve the formation of a subcommittee of the City Council for the annual City Manager Performance Review. We don't have a staff report for this item, but I will basically look to my colleagues. We have to identify 2 of us to do this. Councilmember Weinberg?
I nominate the mayor and the vice mayor to serve as the subcommittee.
Vice Mayor, would you like to weigh in?
Oh, I
Or-
thought the mayor was going to say something.
Oh, okay.
I was going to assume that in this particular instance, the vice mayor might be conflicted or at the very least, maybe not have the bandwidth to devote to it. And that's why we might need to find a different volunteer to stand in for the vice mayor. And I'll look at my other 3. Well, first I'll look at the vice mayor because I don't want to assume anything and see if that's, where her thinking is.
it is exactly where my thinking is. It's not about whether or not I would find the time if I needed to. But it's more that I think for this subcommittee and based on the timeline that I know we need to focus on, I am okay not serving on the subcommittee. I actually asked one of my colleagues if she'd be interested. And so with her not being interested, I'm going to look to
Well, can we rephrase that? I just recommended a different council
right,
member
so we're going to
who.
look to the right. Right. So we're going to look to the right to see if Councilmember Lang, I know Councilmember Weinberg has served in this role before, so have I, so has Councilmember Meadows, so whether or not Councilmember Lang would consider.
I would be willing to serve in that
Perfect.
capacity.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I had to twist arms here.
So I will make a substitute motion that Councilmember Lang and the mayor serve on the subcommittee.
Second.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And because the substitute motion passed, the original motion is moot. Before we undertake the dog park discussion, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll say 15 minutes or close to it, and we'll reconvene at 8:40.
I was on my laptop opening up spots. So there are some available this week next week. If you just let us know, or just reach out to me. Yeah, please. Yeah, that is. I didn't even have to use my numbers.
You going Friday night? You going Friday night?
Okay, everybody, if we could retake our seats and settle down the conversation and get ready to dig into the important stuff. All right, the next item is number 10, dog park surfacing discussion. So we have the existing staff report. We have the staff recommendations. There are two choices before us tonight. Based on how we have agendized this, we can proceed with the Calendar Associates 95% submittal to construct the Hillview Dog Park using the synthetic turf ground covering as approved at the July 9th, 2024 City Council meeting. Or we can return the Hillview Dog Park to the pre-design outreach stage and eliminate synthetic turf as an option for ground covering. And in fact, I would say that if we return to that design phase, we don't necessarily have to eliminate turf as a potential ground cover, but we can reopen the issue of what ground covers we would be okay with. And we would further direct staff to complete the proposed McKinsey Dog Park while the Hillview Dog Park is proceeding through redesign. So first I'll look to my colleagues and see if there are questions for clarification from staff. And then after we have questions for clarification, we will hear from the public. Does anybody have a question that they need answered before we have public comment? Okay. So we're going to go now to public comment. How many speaker cards do we have?
We have 9 speaker cards.
Okay, I'm going to give you each a minute.
The first speaker is Jim Sweeney.
Good evening, Council. I'm speaking in favor of number 2. I have a small dog and I frequent the current dog park. I've been involved in trying to get something, supporting the idea of a dog park since way back when we used to use the baseball field. I am opposed to the use of turf, artificial turf. I don't think it's healthy for dogs. It's got a lot of drawbacks. I'm in favor of grass. We use grass right now at the current dog park. There's several reasons I'd like to see this revisited by going to number 2. One is, I think you make a lot more people happy if you keep the current dog park with grass. It's already there. I've heard different opinions. It might be taken down. I hope not. A lot of us use it. Most of us are in favor of grass. The new dog park doesn't need to be as big. If you keep the old one, you could keep the parking and make a lot of people happy. I guess I'm done.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Barbara Doherty.
Hello, thank you, council members. I'm a resident and worker here in Los Altos. My preference is for a synthetic surface. I often walk right past Hillview Dog Park that's existing with my pup, but cannot bring my muddy dog into my office building. We don't usually stop. The grass at the current Hillview Dog Park is rarely dry. The soccer runoff all summer keeps it wet. Areas of the grass that have been disrupted turn into muddy spots and the grass does not regrow. I prefer synthetic turf for year-round dog park enjoyment. With proper subsurface materials and regular maintenance, synthetic surface dog park will be a perfect addition to downtown amenities. In my opinion, Los Altos needs 6 more dog parks for the size and constituency of dog owners living here. There should be no more delays for opening Hillview Dog Park. Most of my Los Altos friends and I go to neighboring cities every day just to find off-leash areas to exercise our pups. There are plenty of other grass and trail areas for dogs on and off leash to offset Hillview Dog Park being synthetic. There's no way to maintain grass long-term with dog use in our rainy season. The pesticide grass treatment for weeds, grubs, raccoons are not suitable. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dan Byer.
Hi, I got to speak fast because I have more than a minute. I would like to express my strong support for the installation of artificial turf at the dog park. Artificial turf would allow residents and their pets to enjoy the park throughout the entire year. In contrast, natural grass becomes muddy and unusable during the rainy season and remains unusable for extended periods after the sprinklers run during the summer. As a result, the park is effectively unavailable for many of the months. In addition to improving accessibility, artificial turf offers important health and safety benefits. Maintaining natural grass typically involves use of fertilizer and chemicals, which can be ingested by dogs that chew on the grass. Artificial turf eliminates this concern, providing a cleaner and safer environment for pets. For a maintenance and financial perspective, artificial turf is also much more, much better, less cost. It is significantly more durable than natural grass, requires only periodic rinsing to maintain cleanliness and control odor. Oh, I'm going to be out of time. And also, we can't assume there's not going to be droughts, going forward. And so we should try saving water. And obviously, natural grass uses more water.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Maria Bautista.
Hello again. I'm Maria Batista, and I just would like to say that I'd like you to return this, please, to the design phase. Our restaurants can't use plastic, which I thought was a fantastic move made by our city. And I also feel like if we're not allowing that to happen, we should continue to move forward and not cover our ground in plastic either. So I would like to actually see a no artificial turf, no plastic anywhere at any time in any open space in Los Altos. It's not in character with our city. I also would like to say that it would be helpful to see the data on the pilot programs, who is using the parks and where they're coming from, because I suspect that you're going to find some interesting information about parking and traffic. And I'd like to see parking and traffic studies done as part of a revisit and rethink, and an environmental impact report for cumulative impact, especially if you're considering Hillview, given that we have so many activities in this community hub, fantastic activities, fantastic sites, and I think we really, as a community, deserve to understand the ramifications of a dog park here. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Tammy Mulcahy.
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 Hello. Well, a group of us were here in August to urge you to reject synthetic turf for the Hillview Dog Park. We are here tonight with the same position. Rather than take your time with multiple speakers, I represent a number of people on the topic, and I would ask them to stand up or raise their hands. In the United States alone, the Lancet Medical Journal just put out the annual cost of plastic-related health damages at $675 billion. The impact of our plastic exposure is very real. Synthetic turf releases chemicals in a process called off-gassing, especially in heat, bad for animals, bad for humans. Synthetic turf worsens urban heat island effects. Frequent cleaning is required for odor and bacteria. Dog owners tell us literally and figuratively it stinks. Despite claims that modern synthetic turf is more sustainable, it ends up in landfills despite the greenwashing assurances that it is recyclable. Please remove synthetic turf for consideration at the Hillview Park.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Susan Hinton.
Good evening. I'm Susan Hinton, and I chair the Sierra Club Loma Prieta Plastic Pollution Prevention Committee. Tonight, I'm representing the entire chapter, as well as a number of people here in Los Altos. If they'd like to stand up or raise their hands. Thank you. We urge the Los Altos City Council to vote for option 2. They're talking about soybeans and plant-based plastic. There are 2 types of plant-based plastics when it comes to soybeans. One is a soy protein that's water sensitive and lacks durability. It cannot be plastic grass. The other type uses soybean oil to create epoxies or a polyurethane resin that chemically is the same as if it came from a petrochemical source. It's a strong plastic. It's neither compostable nor degradable, which might have something to do with them needing to send it to be recycled to Germany, or they donate it. It will shed plastic. It will wind up in the watershed. It'll wind up in people. It causes harms. It creates microplastics. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Kat Huang.
First, I want to thank you and ask each of you for your continued support for the dog park, because I know it's been long in happening. We have many comments I've seen, and I just wanted to say that I'd like to ask for your support for the option 2, eliminate the synthetic turf. Besides the not sustainable, we go often to the Hillview Dog Park right now, especially after I run around 5 institutions, but financial institutions downtown, and then bring my dog out so he can be free. So besides not sustainable, with the hot temperature, we have one dog owner who's walking over from the neighborhood, and he replaced turf twice in his backyard, and he says it's just too hot, and he's still coming over to the Hillview Dog Park. Also the health risk. So the pee and the poop, you know, some dogs especially are more sensitive and allergic. We're looking at 8 to 10 years of having this turf being clean. And the golden retriever dog who's coming over and then walking around Grover, I'm happy to say he's 10 years old today, so they can't be here, but he had gotten this allergic reaction at the Village Dog Park as the son takes out their 2 Goldens regularly, and with the drooling, foaming, he is also very concerned. So they're not able to be here tonight, but I want to say that we want to ask for your support for this eliminating synthetic turf, and we are enjoying the dog park, so thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Teresa Morris.
Good evening, Teresa Morris. I serve on the Park and Rec Commission, but I am not, well, the Park, Art, Recreation, and Cultural Commission, but I'm not speaking as a commissioner this evening. Consistent with many of the comments I've made in the past and the information that I've shared at different meetings, I'm asking that you consider an alternative to the artificial turf. I realize there aren't a lot of alternatives to artificial turf. I sent a letter and included some ideas. I do know that DG is not a great alternative, but at least it's an alternative that is a little bit better than the plastic. Cradle to grave artificial turf is an environmental disaster. I'm working with families with babies and children. We're looking at these microplastics getting into these babies and children and ourselves, and the dogs are right down there on the ground with them, and children will be right down on the ground often with the animals. So I would ask that you just eliminate artificial turf as an option. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last speaker is Janine Valadez.
My name is Janine Valadez. I'm the library commissioner, not here in that capacity. I think the biggest argument that people have about plastic and artificial turf is it's plastic. But we make choices about plastic every day, all day. And this is a dog park that is very purpose-built, and it's small, and it's constrained. As a result, there really is no other surface that will work to be weatherproof and cleanable and containable, as long as we design the infrastructure correctly. It really does need to be a closed system to go into the sewer. Enzymatic cleaning, which doesn't have environmental impact because the carbon dioxide it creates in breaking down or decomposing the urine or feces, is normal as other decomposition is on soil. So it's a matter of cleanliness. So people complain about the smell, and the smell is a real issue. They use Village Park as a comparison, which has been the same since 2014, very poorly maintained and not cleaned regularly. And that is not what we're building. We're building a state-of-the-art park, and I think it needs to be weatherproof year-round, closed system, and therefore reasonable. All of the technical reports that say it's bad, they always have a qualifier provisor that says all economic, lifestyle, and purpose needs, being equal, then yes, plastic is not good. But that's not the case here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, so we will take it back to the dais. I'm going to look to my right to Councilmember Lang to start us off.
No way. I'm the rookie in this. I wasn't here June 29th.
Councilmember Weinberg, do you have something to offer? I
do, Mayor. Thank you. And I'm the one who asked the council to reconsider this. So I'm glad that I can lead us off here. It was very difficult for me to ask the council to reconsider this because we did go over the issue last year and we did make a decision. And like both Councilmember Lang and Councilmember Meadows noted, when I asked the council to bring this back, we've made decisions. We have a policy of sticking with them and not coming back and looking at them, especially when there's nothing new to consider. There are just louder and louder voices. And I am sympathetic to that, and it's something that, generally speaking, it's a philosophy to which I subscribe. But I asked the council to reconsider this for a couple of reasons. And primarily it's, I really genuinely believe that we can make a better choice than we did a year ago. The reason that I came to that conclusion is I went down to the dog park on San Antonio, which is turf. It stinks. It stinks to high heaven. I went to another park, also all turf, a dog park that was all turf on the peninsula. I forget if it's Belmont or San Carlos, I think, and it also just stinks. The dog park that we're building at Hillview is right smack in the middle of the community center. I mean, it is dead center. You've got the soccer field just to the south of it. You've got the library just to the north of it. You've got the Bus Barn Theater that's on one side of it. I'm really concerned that we're thinking of installing a dog park that is destined to stink. I thought that perhaps DG might be a better alternative, but that's going to need a bioswale, which will take room away. And that also, it can get very dusty. And again, you've got the same issue. You have the soccer field and the library and the bus barn right there. We don't want dust from the dog park going and interfering with people's enjoyment of other amenities in the community center. So because of its location, because it's right smack in the middle of the crown jewel of recreation in our city, I think it's urgent that we're sure that we get this right, that we have some kind of a ground covering that is least likely to interfere with other people's enjoyment of amenities in the community center. That is ultimately why I wanted to bring this back to the council. So what are some of the alternatives and what are some of the things we've learned? I've learned that artificial turf, look, it's the presentation that we have before us, the materials that we have, hey, it's soy, hey, it's recyclable. The reality is this thing is going to end up having to go to Germany if it's recycled at all. What's the carbon footprint of sending it to Germany in order to do that? I think when we looked at this last year, we were told it could go to Louisiana or Pennsylvania or somewhere. Well, apparently that's not happening, so that is a change of circumstance. Ultimately, again, I'm really concerned that we are talking about putting in a ground surface that we're going to regret because it is going to interfere with other people's enjoyment of the community center. Dog owners, frankly, they can handle the smell of poo, they can handle the smell of pee. It's not pleasant, but he owned dogs, especially if you go to dog parks or you go to anywhere where dogs convene. It happens. I mean, it's a natural part of what dogs do, right? And if you're a dog owner especially, you kind of get used to it. It's not that big a deal. So if we were talking about a dog park that was somewhere way isolated, this would be the odor would be less of a concern to me because, again, dog owners are used to it, and I don't think that that's going to impact people's ability to use and enjoy the park. But I am seriously concerned that we're about to embark on building an amenity that is going to take away from other people's enjoyment of other amenities around there. People who, frankly, don't want to smell dog urine or dog feces. Ultimately, I believe that the best solution is probably grass. Yes, it is going to be expensive, although I don't know that we can say it's more expensive than the type of maintenance we're talking about with artificial turf. One of the notes in the staff report is that the Santa Clara Dog Park, which is all artificial turf, and by the way, the photographs of it taken on a day where it was about 80 degrees didn't show a lot of dogs out in the middle of the park, probably where it's hot. But putting that aside, one thing that was noted is that the city of Santa Clara closes that down one day a week until 3 p.m. So for 8 hours a day, once a week, it's not open to people who want to use the dog park. I think if you add that up over 1 or 2 years, which is the amount of time that you would have to wait before, say, resodding new grass, if we decided to put grass instead of artificial turf, the time that it's down is probably equivalent. You know, you may be talking about a month or two in order to put down new sod and have it take. I don't think that that's a lot more than what we're already talking about in terms of shutting it down one day a week for staff to be able to clean the dog park. What else? I do think it's important to note that the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan that we adopted in 2022 urges our residents not to install artificial turf. And there's not a lot in there about artificial turf, but it does say that it encourages residents not to install artificial turf. If we are encouraging residents not to install artificial turf, why are we considering installing it here? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I do recognize the arguments of the durability of artificial turf. I spoke to someone who is knowledgeable, who believes that it wouldn't last 8 or 10 years. It could probably last 20 years. I don't know, but certainly it will last longer than a grass field will last. But nevertheless, I think that the the consequences of having an amenity that will interfere with the use of other amenities is very serious. I think it's something that the council ought to consider. I also want to say, my daughter plays club soccer and she's on the Los Altos High soccer team. Most of the fields on which she plays are made of artificial turf. Not all of them, but most of them. Every field that is artificial turf, there is a rule. The very first rule usually is no dogs. All the grass fields where she plays, and there aren't a lot of them anymore, but all the grass fields where she plays do not have that rule. Dogs are welcome there. Now, there are probably several reasons for that, but it's not lost on me that one of the things you don't want is dogs urinating and defecating where children are playing. However, if it's on grass, it is going to damage the playing surface and cause less of a danger than artificial turf. And it's true, I think it was mentioned by I believe Ms. Valdez earlier, that older artificial turf is not as good, not as durable, not as clean, not as sanitary as what we're looking at today. And I believe it's true. I believe that what staff has recommended that the council approve is the best choice when it comes to artificial turf. But for all the reasons I've mentioned, I really truly believe that we have better options in front of the city, and that we risk not having a bad dog park, but that we risk interfering with the other amenities that we have at Hillview.
Councilmember Weinberg, do you mind if I ask you just one or two questions to clarify? So to summarize, I think what I'm hearing you say is that your primary concern is the odor?
My primary concern is the interference with other people's enjoyment of amenities. So odor is certainly a part of that, yes.
Right. I'm not trying to parse your words. I'm just trying to figure out where each of the objections are and so forth. And then I think it's awesome that you visited other dog parks. My question is, did you visit the turf dog park that we already have in Los Altos? At McKinsey?
Oh, I've been to McKinsey many times, of course.
It's AstroTurf. Does it not stink?
It does stink, like dog parks do stink. McKenzie is mulch and concrete.
No, it's AstroTurf.
When was the AstroTurf installed?
City manager, when was the AstroTurf installed at McKinsey?
It was probably installed about a month after we opened.
Because the first month we experienced what with the surface that we had?
We had wood chips in there, and they were getting stuck in the dog's paws, so we got a lot of complaints. So we tried the artificial turf that we had, which is old technology, and we installed it just to give it a try to see what people thought about it.
It was actually leftover turf from 3rd Street Green, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So we got complaints on the initial surface. Have we gotten complaints since we switched to turf there?
Not that I can recall or hear.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Somebody else?
Right. So, Mayor,
Yeah,
congratulations.
go ahead.
You got me. Good job.
No, I don't. Sorry. It was a little bit of a gotcha. I, too, have been to many parks that reek, by the way. Turf and grass. It's probably a function of volume use and cleaning schedule. So I would be concerned about any surface potentially leading to diminishing enjoyment of the rest of the complex by people who are at the History Museum.
Thank you. Yeah, you got me.
So first, follow up to Councilmember Weinberg's questions. I want to ask staff, because I think you've been very clear about the differences. And actually, we've heard two different stories about the San Antonio Park and how it is a good service. Can you please explain the maintenance that we expect to do if we put in the artificial turf at Hillview, and how that is or isn't different from the parks that have been discussed here?
Thank you, Councilmember Meadows. I cannot speak to the parks such as San Antonio. I don't know what their schedule is for maintenance. But from what I've heard, it's probably less than what we're planning on. Our plan for maintenance and cleanliness and all of that is probably going to resemble some of the cities that were in your report, that such like Foster City or Santa Clara is another one. And I've spoken to both of those agencies and their maintenance staff on what they do. So it's probably going to resemble that more, just to make sure that we lessen any kind of impact to the dog park, such as smell and anything like that.
And another point of clarification, our regular maintenance on our grass fields for the soccer, we close them down for, what is it, 3 months during the winter, or 4, or?
Approximately 2.5 to 3 months.
2.5 to 3 months, okay.
Yeah, sometime in November through February. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Of course, that's a different use, and it'll be less concentrated. It'll be more concentrated in a dog park if it were grass than it is on the soccer field, but the dogs don't usually wear cleats, but they've got claws. So I don't know, trade-offs there. All right, so Mayor, if I may go ahead into my comments. First of all, actually I did, Councilmember Weinberg and I must think alike. I did a search also of the CAP. I did a fine search for artificial turf, whatever. There was one single mention of artificial turf, but I wanted to read the full context of that, which was, and I have it here, remove or reduce lawn area if possible, do not replace with artificial turf. So that's really looking to people to use plant materials, plants necessarily, rather than lawn or artificial turf, and which is again a different use. So let me tell you a little bit about my thinking here. So first of all, I want to address some people maybe took offense when I said we don't have any new information. We just have the same information, but with louder and more voices. And when I said we don't have any new information, and some of you, I've asked for this information, what the new information that would be relevant for us in this decision-making is information about this specific kind of turf. So any list of studies, whether it's of one study or 2 pages of studies or however many studies, it's usually looking at the old 3rd Street green type of turf, or it's looking at athletic field type of turfs, or whatever evolution have been made for, lawns in the meantime. But there are no data that anyone has been able to provide when I've asked, and I admit I haven't looked for it either, but people don't seem inclined to believe the manufacturer's claims, but there's actually no data to tell us how this new specific to use turf holds up to these other old turfs. I mean, are they different? I mean, it's a valid question. Maybe they're no different. I agree they're plastic based. But I really, so there's no information. We have no comparative information. And to riff off of Bill Nye, the science guy, I have not a master's degree, but a bachelor's degree in chemistry. So I'm looking for data when we're trying to make claims. I talked to some of you about cradle to grave analysis. And I know we're not really talking about the other alternatives so much tonight, but I do want to mention that decomposed gravel, which I can't imagine ever approving, comes from quarries. We've worked for decades in this county to close Lehigh, a quarry, because of the pollution, because of the toxicity. And yet somehow this isn't taken into consideration when we talk about DG. So, if you look all the way through, let's try to be balanced in how we evaluate this. So what I respect is for advocates who have a cause, you can be absolute in your advocacy, you can be passionate in your advocacy. But here on council, at least how I view the job, we have so many causes. The community is our cause. And I try to be absolute for the best value for the community or the best decisions for the community. And so that's how I'm approaching this. I have spent a lot of time on environmental work the past 5 years. But I approach it from what can we as a city accomplish? It's usually not perfect. It's not the 100% target. I mean, we even saw that earlier with our building codes. We had good, pragmatic, defensible, legally defensible, not at me, city attorney, yes, codes that we introduced and we passed. Could we try for more? Maybe, but that doesn't mean we're going to get there, and we could fail in the long run because of problems. So I'm looking at my advocacy for the community in the decision for this dog park. I'm kind of surprised to hear that now we'd be concerned about the location. We've been talking about this location for a long time. I understand if it stinks or if there's dust, then that's not an ideal fit, but we've been talking about a dog park in Hillview since the three of us on the dais 2 or 3 years ago. It was before Mayor Pete was elected. 3 of us on this dais voted, well, 5 of us, 3 of us still on the dais, voted unanimously for the Hillview Dog Park. So, and if I thought any of these choices, and I do think actually DG is a harmful choice, if I think any of the choices were harmful, I would not support them. I am by no means an advocate for artificial turf. We took out our front lawn and we put in plants. We have just a postage size piece of grass and have gone all with plantings, most of them low water use. And we have, as a council, we have a strong record of climate protective and sustainable actions. But again, looking at this use case, I really do support what has been in front of us for over a year as the best choice. We have made civic center decisions, some built, some just budgeted for, around the location and of this dog park. We've got a generator that sits there now based on a dog park being planned right next to it. We have parking planned to address. You know, we have absolute, again, advocates are great. It's because we have advocates that we have such a strong community. But this indecision has allowed a coalescence of apricot and library and anti-dog advocates to come together and to make this process even more difficult than it has been. A couple last things. The composition of this council is changing. 1 potentially a month or 2 from now, and then 2 a year from now. So I believe by continuing to not be decisive about this, we basically really increase the odds for not having a dog park at all. I did a little math. This is not perfect. It's not on an envelope but it's probably back of the envelope status. So we've got 7,840 square feet of turf proposed in about a 13,000 square foot dog park. So that's about 0.1 acres of turf in a 0.3 acre dog park. Now, here's where you'll have to trust my approximations. In Los Altos, we're about 6.5 square miles, which is about 4,160 acres. So that 0.18 acres of turf represents 0.004% of our land. I don't know what the proportion of lawn or non-permeable surfaces we have in Los Altos, but it's more like 15 to 20%, maybe even higher. I'm trying to be conservative. But we don't regulate, and I don't know why we're letting the tail wag the dog, pardon the pun, by talking about this dog park first. We don't regulate lawns or sport fields when those are 20% or so, and here we're talking about 0.004% of our land. I would support looking at an overall city regulation for turf. But I don't support that this is the way to start, and I do think it's the right decision with the assurances we have for maintenance from staff and the product that we think we're purchasing. And maybe we won't be right, but then we'll change it. So I completely support option 1.
Vice Mayor, would you like to chime in?
Sure. Thank you. So as one of the council members that supported bringing this back along with council members Lang and Weinberg, without repeating what has already been said, I'll just point out one of the main considerations for me. And to council member Meadows' point 1, we already vetted locations. It took many years, starting with the Parks and Rec Commission, which I served on when this started. Well, it started again, and it continued for many years. So I agree that we decided on Hillview. For many reasons, we decided that was the best location for a dog park. Also, as someone who's been on council for 7 years, I was just reflecting on how many 3-2 votes I've been part of over the last few years. And so I know what it means to take tough votes when you have people lined up opposing from the community center to bike lanes to safe routes to school, and taking those tough votes to get a 3-2 majority so we can move those initiatives forward. On this particular item last year, and I'm sure we all went back and watched the meeting, one of the things for me comparing last year to the last meeting we had on this item, and also talking to members of the public, was last year for me, based on the presentation, it came across as if all the alternatives were considered and artificial turf was the way to go. And there were pros and cons. I remember we had the contractor here, and they demonstrated, based on their information, why artificial turf was the recommended surface material. And so even last year, I was not a big fan of artificial turf. I know it's not good for the environment and health, and there are also health reasons as well. But based on that presentation, I definitely thinking we didn't have a choice. Fast forward to this year, where we started hearing more about other alternatives and other ways to do this. I actually talked with colleagues in Palo Alto and Sunnyvale. In Sunnyvale, for example, 5 years ago, they did install artificial turf in one of their parks. And then fast forward to last year, when they were considering another park based on new information, they actually directed their staff to do an analysis, going back to what Councilmember Meadows said about having the real data, which unfortunately I don't think we have either. So Sunnyvale right now has its staff researching it, and so does Palo Alto. And because these council members also want to better understand, is artificial turf really the only option? Because you have to weigh pros and cons. As council members, we have to figure out if there are no better options, then yes, even though it's not perfect, that's what they're going to move forward with. So for me, I still don't have enough information to determine whether or not artificial turf is the best surface material. I don't think we should change locations from Hillview. It's unfortunate what the projected cost would be if we don't move forward with the current design. But based on our CAP goals, my values, and I know many community members' values as well, where yes, it's unfortunate the situation we're in, but if we really believe that we should be moving away from plastic to the extent we can, there's no better alternative, then that's the direction I want us to go as a city, and that's what I would support. Bear in mind, if we look to Sunnyvale study or Palo Alto study right now, and I think Sunnyvale study may come back soon, and they conclude, maybe we could piggyback onto their research and not have to expend our own resources. We can talk to our colleagues on Sunnyvale City Council. I will be very clear with members of the public. If, for example, the Sunnyvale analysis concludes that there's really no better alternative, even though artificial turf is horrible for the environment, the other alternatives are no better for XYZ reasons, and this is an objective analysis, and we want a dog park for our city, which we've all voted on, and artificial turf is really the best solution, then that's something I could see supporting down the road. But as of today, I cannot support moving forward knowing that there actually may be better alternatives for a dog park to to artificial turf. It doesn't align, even though it isn't spelled out in our cap. It's definitely something that's well known and spoken about in research among environmentalists as bad for the environment and our health, and something that we should eventually try to move away from. And what I hear from my colleagues in other cities who have parks with artificial turf is that they're actually looking for alternatives. And for some, to Councilmember Weinberg's point, for some fields, so for example, the soccer fields in Palo Alto, for different reasons, again, they're doing the pros and cons analysis. For certain things where there are really no better alternatives based on how the fields are used and the frequency, and the foot traffic on the surface, we as a city and other cities may decide to go with artificial turf. But it's definitely not the ideal solution. And it should be, for me, the last resort because of the environmental and health concerns. Thank you.
This is your last chance, Councilmember Lang.
Woo! I remember last July, I was out campaigning. And as I rang doorbells, people said to me, "Where do you stand on the dog park?" And I remember thinking to myself, what does it matter? They're going to make a decision well before I potentially get there. And yet here I am. What a kettle of fish. So here we are. Maybe I'll just make one thing I want to say. I did the same calculation, Sally. I came to exactly the same number. So checked your math. Yeah, well, I want to say that I think that one of the challenges here is that this has become a sort of place to debate what policy this city should have about artificial turf. And I think that's part of what that number sort of reveals, is that I think that's a worthy thing. But, honestly, in the scheme of our impact, this is a tiny little patch of turf. And one way or another, I feel like there's an appetite clearly expressed in the community in visiting the question of turf. It may not be a yes-no question. It might be minimum standards or whatever, but that's for another day. For this, I strongly believe in not revisiting decisions. I generally do, right? And certainly I wouldn't have been the one to bring this up, but here we are. Right? And the fact of the matter is, of the 4 people on the dais who were there voting on July 9th, 2 of them have decided that they're not comfortable moving forward. And I would point out that if I weren't here, if I were to say abstain, which I don't intend to do, but if I did, we wouldn't move forward with the design, right? That it would fail. And so I'm inclined to go with the 2 that want to revisit it, right? If 2 out of the 4 people here who made the decision think that there's a problem with the decision, I'm inclined to revisit it. I don't feel like it's me that's causing the indecisiveness here, right? If 2 out of the 4 of the people who voted for it think it's time to revisit it, and certainly we received a lot of feedback from the community that they would like us to revisit it, I'm inclined to support option number 2 and revisit it.
Thank you. I'm of 2 minds. My experience with turf goes back 38 years. My first experience was as an athlete playing on it. And since that time, I have been an athlete, I have been a coach, I have been a father, and I have been a public policymaker. I've been on the Parks Commission. I have been a dog owner. I have used various products in building a dog run in my home in Los Altos. I believe that the right product is turf for the dog park. But I'm not prepared to throw all my weight behind that belief of my own. It is my personal belief. It's well informed, but it's just my personal belief. And it is at odds with what I'm hearing from the community. And normally I will say, let's not conflate volume with volume. Let's not conflate volume of comments with the volume at which the comments are being made, right? So normally that means to me, even if I see 50 people show up at city council and say, we're opposed to this change in the weather, I think, well, that's fine. There's probably 50 people out there that have a different opinion, but for some reason they're not energized to come in. On this issue, I think it's a little bit different. Again, it's a feeling of mine, but my feeling is that the temperature in the community is very much opposed to turf. And I agree that this is a minuscule patch of turf that we're talking about. And I'm disappointed that the advocacy hasn't taken a look at the staff report and really addressed the product that the staff specified. It would have been more helpful to us as council members to have the advocacy specifically look at the product that we had, or that staff has specified. So here's where I am at the end of it all. I think we're going to have to reconsider this surface, because even though it's a small patch, sometimes we make choices that are based on our values that set an example and determine our course forward. And frankly, this small patch is just the first instance where the possibility of deploying turf will come before us. It's probably the smallest potential deployment of turf. But here's what I would ask of my colleagues. We can send this back to early stages for design and outreach, but I would ask that we not eliminate turf as a possibility from that consideration, but that we do some more rigorous analysis of the emerging products. Because frankly, every agency in this country and in others is deploying turf. And many will tell you that because of drought and climate change, that without turf, there will be no recreation. There will be no formal recreation departments at most agencies if they're not allowed to deploy turf. And it has been the good, strong advocacy of folks like our residents that has brought about changes in the industry. No industry as big as the turf industry, and I'm guessing it's billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? No industry that big can thumb its nose at climate change and at the good faith concerns reflected by advocates like we have here. And so the industry is changing. And, you know, we've had industries come before public agencies in the past and say our product doesn't cause cancer, I swear, and yada, yada, yada. And I don't believe any of that, right? I'd like to see some third-party testing. The manufacturer says that they have a third-party testing agency that they use. Well, let's go get the test results, right? And if the products meet the requirements for PFAS mitigation, this one already does some great things with regard to hot spots and other things. But if the products that are available meet these requirements, then actually we should consider rewarding the good change that the industry is making. And we should consider being a part of that change. Because, listen, monoculture, grass, is pretty terrible for the environment too. It's really bad. Do you know how much chlorofluorocarbons are released when somebody runs a tractor mower over the entire soccer field? Or some other field that we might consider deploying turf? So I'm not looking for answers from the audience. This isn't an interactive section. That was a rhetorical question. But all of the alternatives have their pros and cons. So what I am actually advocating for here is a more thorough analysis and a revisiting of the decision, but I don't want to preclude, I would not want to preclude turf from that analysis. And if it really, on balance, is the wrong choice, then the analysis should give us what we need to make the right choice. I will look to my colleagues. Maybe somebody wants to make a motion on one of these two items. Perhaps one of the colleagues who wanted us to consider these two items would make a motion?
I'll
Okay.
make it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
So I feel limited with the options here, but I guess we're leaning towards option 2. So I'll read that recommendation and add the direction that I think we're a majority or more of us are agreeing on. So I move that we return the Hillview Dog Park to the pre-design outreach stage and eliminate synthetic turf as an option for ground covering, and further direct staff to complete the proposed Mackenzie Dog Park while Hillview Dog Park is proceeding through redesign, and further direct staff to bring back an objective analysis on other alternatives to artificial turf for us to deploy in city parks, including but not limited to working with other jurisdictions that have already done such analysis.
Friendly amendment. I would strike everything after send it back for redesign and outreach. Strike it all. And that can all be guidance, but the motion itself to just send it back for redesign and outreach should be sufficient to cover everything. And then we can have a consensus on what we want the guidance to be. But I think the motion, the best government action is a simple motion in that case.
So I just want to clarify. So
Be made into a breakfast cereal or something, right? Like, it seems unlikely. But my point being is, this is going to take some time. There will be new products. We'll learn new things. We may learn things from other jurisdictions. I don't see any particular reason that the motion should rule out an option now, because clearly the background for how I got there will be foremost in the mind of the designers, and those concerns will need to be addressed, I'm sure. So I don't. I've said enough. I think I'm on the same page.
No. I and that actually aligns with my comments too, because if the analysis comes back and synthetic turf is the best product, regardless of the pros and cons, then obviously that's something as a council member I would support as well. So I accept the amendment to my motion. So moved with eliminating synthetic turf stricken.
Then I second the motion.
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
No.
Councilmember Weinberg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember Meadows opposed.
All right. Next item is to authorize the city manager to issue formal bid for Woodland Library patio expansion plan and find that the proposal is exempt from environmental review. I think my colleague, Councilmember Weinberg, needs to make an announcement.
Thank you, Mayor. I own real property within 500 feet of the Woodland Library, so I will be recusing myself from this discussion and leaving the room.
Do we have anything from staff on this item? Okay.
Staff has a short presentation. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Anthony Carneseca, Assistant to the City Manager. This is a presentation on the Los Altos Woodland Library patio expansion. I'm going to give you a little bit on the background of the project, and then I'm going to hand it over to Lolly Representative Freddie Wheeler to present the proposal for the council tonight. So a little on the background. In March of 2022, the Library Commission explored the concept of an expanded outdoor patio at the Woodland Library. And then in December of 2022, the Library Commission approved an initial expanded patio project at Woodland based on work of an ad hoc subcommittee of the commission. And in August of 2024, Los Altos Library Endowment began designs based on the Library Commission's work. So they used that as kind of the jumping board for their designs. And in November of 2024, City Council did receive an informational update from staff as to this project, letting them know that it was progressing. And in January of 2025, this item was presented to the Library Commission, where they were able to provide feedback on the initial draft that was created by the Los Altos Library Endowment team. And since that time, the Los Altos Library Endowment team has worked to refine the drawings and make sure that they were the direction that they would like to, as well as the library staff. So the current condition, these are some very overhead pictures of the outside of the Woodland Library. If you're familiar, it's right there. You can see the main light or the Woodland Library property right there, as well as the outdoor area we're talking about. And this overhead makes it a little more clear. Currently, there is a patio on the back side of the Woodland Library that you can see right here that I'm drawing over with my cursor underneath these trees. And then over here is a native plant garden. And the proposed patio is an expansion of the existing patio, as well as an additional space for the native plant garden to expand next to that patio area. And right here is an at-grade picture of the current conditions of the backside of the Woodland Library patio. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Freddie Wheeler to introduce the proposal.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate this opportunity to present this project to you, representing the Los Altos Library Endowment. Thank you, Sally. I'm very happy tonight to be able to show you some representations, some renderings of the new proposed expanded patio. Much like the new courtyard that Lolly is funding for the main library, this project will be a beautiful, new, much-needed, flexible public space that will encourage library visits and elevate patron experiences consistent with one of the important goals of the Santa Clara County Library's latest strategic plan. It will provide space for reading, gathering, and additional events, which are great. This space is greatly needed for the Woodland Library, and it will provide a significant benefit for the South Los Altos community. The renderings show the expanded patio area that will be filled with tables and chairs and umbrellas that will be donated by the endowment once they're selected in coordination with the library staff to maximize patio usability for patrons. The renderings also shown, the renderings will be filled, also shown is the play area that was requested by the library staff, and it's made up of light gray permeable pavers and the dark gray honeycomb area, which serves to separate the patio from the play area, and it also serves as an additional pathway. Picture children playing chess on the outdoor chessboard with large game pieces, or expressing themselves with sidewalk chalk on the honeycomb area. There are pathways surrounding the patio and the play area, including the large pathway. If you could go to the last one, the last rendering, I believe. No. That, okay, well, all right, that one will show it better. That large pathway, there we go, goes out all the way to the parking lot. And the bumped out area has space for a food truck to be parked during events. The large pathway also provides access for emergency vehicles should that become necessary. It provides access for trucks to deliver goods to the patio area for events or supplies. And during the closure of the main library for the remodel, this bumped out area of the large pathway could be used to have the Lolly donated Go-Go Biblio parked there, or a larger bookmobile that's owned by the district, which would help provide more books and services for patrons during that closure. The Library Endowment and our architects worked closely with Scott Reeves of the city's Department of Public Works Engineering Division, who consulted with Manny Hernandez, who's the Director of Parks and Recreation, to make sure that the materials selected for this project were approved in advance by the city and would need the least possible maintenance. We have submitted our bid-ready construction documents to Scott Reeves. The Library Endowment is asking for your approval of the project this evening, and I want to thank you on behalf of the endowment for the opportunity to present this project to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Freddie. Councilmember Lang.
Just one question. First of all, excited about it. Looks like a very thoughtful and needed project. I know in the project that's contemplated here, one of the constraints on it was being able to create a space where you could go with unchecked out books, I believe, was sort of the idea there. Whereas this one looks like there wouldn't be that sort of thing. The expectation would be that to use this space first, you would check out whatever materials you wanted to take out there. Is that a correct understanding?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
This is really just an expansion
Yeah.
of the patio they already have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Just to follow up on that question, because in the renderings, Mr. Carnesecca, there's that blue door. Is that the only way to access that back door area with this new
No,
design?
that,
Okay.
There's the door in the back that you don't see it because it's not in the renderings, but it goes out to the existing patio, and then that door on the side is actually their emergency exit door at the moment.
So it's the other, okay, so it's not being shown in that rendering. We're not changing the current exit from the library.
No.
Okay.
We're not touching the building.
So to Councilmember Lang's point, we'll still be able to make sure people have checked out books before, if we're using that same exit.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Councilmember Meadows? No? Okay. All right. Well, then I will entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to issue a bid. Huh? Oh, public comment. Yeah, sorry. Public comment. Do we have any comment cards?
No, we do not.
Okay. No, no, of course.
Can I
of course.
clarify something?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Vice Mayor.
And Mr. England, very supportive of this project. Mr. England, what exactly are we directing or making a motion to do this evening? Because we have already approved the funding, correct? And staff is already preparing the bid package. So it's just really formalizing what we've already indirectly approved.
Correct. We were seeking feedback from council to make, as it's the council's property, but then the vote would authorize me to release the RFP.
Councilmember Meadows?
I'm very excited and supportive of this project, and thank you for moving it forward for quite some time now.
Oh, thank you. All
Are you excited enough to make a motion?
Sure. I am that excited. So I move that we authorize the city manager to issue a formal bid for Woodland Library patio expansion plan and find that the proposal is exempt from environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, Section 15301, period.
Second.
We have a second by the Vice Mayor. Will you call the question, please?
Councilmember Lang?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fliger?
Yes.
Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0-1 with Councilmember Weinberg recused.
Okay. Can we invite Councilmember Weinberg back in, please? Okay, so we've got informational items that have been part of the packet. We don't need to address those. So before I move to adjournment, I will look to my colleagues and see if there are reports or requests for future agenda items. I'm actually going to start with two. The first is, I think we should put on the agenda a review of our chamber contract. All right, so we've got at least 4 in support of that. And then I think we should send to the Environmental Commission the request that they analyze and develop recommendations around a turf policy or ordinance for the city that embraces residential, commercial, and municipal uses. It's going to be a while before we have to reassess or before the dog park comes back to us, and I would like to see the Environmental Commission engage on this issue, because we may want to limit the use of turf in other aspects of the community, or they may find that it isn't worthy. But I submit that we should send this to the Environmental Commission.
I second that, Mayor.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, anybody else have future agenda items they would like to consider or something to report on? Councilmember Lang.
I don't know if this is a future agenda item, but I just want to raise something that I've had discussions with the city manager, which is, as you all know, I'm sure, we're revisiting our arrangements for emergency services, thinking about what to do to improve the situation for our police, what is the best thing for the fire. One thing that really struck me as I was learning more about that is that, in fact, most of the emergency calls that fire responds to are, in fact, medical calls. And there's a very complicated arrangement there in terms of the medics responding on the trucks and the transport that's provided. I personally intend to learn more about that, but I also think it's something that the community might want to learn more about in terms of advanced life support versus basic life support and the impact on time and so forth like that. So I don't know this is an agenda item as much as I was puzzled and curious about it, and I thought this is eventually going to be important to the community, so I asked the city manager to give some thought about how we might undertake activities to share information about that with the community. So I'll just put that out there as something I think is important.
It could be an information session.
Yeah, exactly. That was sort of my thought, was some appropriate thing to learn more about that, and particularly to share more with the community, which I think my very informal survey suggests nobody knows anything about this at all. So.
Well, maybe that can be offered through our fire contract rather than staff having to. City manager will weigh in.
So through the city managers group in the county, I'm on a subcommittee to look at the AMR services, the ambulance services. I would appreciate if we could have that conversation first, and then I'm happy to bring it back to council, and it will get into how we currently organize medical response in the county.
That makes a lot of sense to me, so thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Meadows?
So I had office hours last week, and then I want to suggest and this last item sort of reminded me, I've been forgetting it for a number of meetings, a very meta agenda item, which is for a future agenda item, I would like to talk about how we do future agenda items. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of things that are good to do and we all agree, but we're not asking for trade-offs. So what does this kick further down the list, whatever. So, and again, this may fit in with one of the other future agenda items that might be in the norms. I don't really know how to go about this. Maybe Mayor, you and the city manager can talk about it. But I feel like we throw a lot of things there because we're all interested and the community would be interested, but how do we really weigh versus what's already on staff's plate? So maybe there's some process or something. I don't know if I have any support for that.
I'm supportive of thinking about that. I just would ask how it relates. As I recall, there was something that was put out there about being more formal and thoughtful about how we handle the Q&A process. and I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It might fit in that norms discussion with that item, which may or may not be the norms. But they're kind of norms or process or conventions, practices maybe is the better word.
And it
but-
is practice. And to Councilmember Meadows' point, as a council, we can always reconsider how it's done. But I can summarize quickly. To date, it really has been left to the mayor and the city manager. So if something isn't legally required to be on the agenda or doesn't have like time sensitive material where the city manager and staff are saying it needs to be on the agenda, everything else that goes on this list, it's up to, in the past, so it has always been done and it's done in other cities as well. The manager and the city manager then would look at that other list of items and figure out when they put it on the agenda. So if it's not legally required or time sensitive from a administration perspective, then it's really up to the city. If we want to do it differently, then as a council we can. It's not a legal requirement, but that's how it has been done.
Seeing as how our council meetings have run so long all year, I think maybe you're right. We should figure out how to make them shorter.
Let's not conflate the length of our meetings with the process and order to which we conduct them.
I support having a discussion about that particular element of our practices, and if there are other aspects of our meeting practices that should also be discussed, I would be okay with that too. In fact, I would probably prefer that we take a little bit more comprehensive look at some of our practices rather than just single out that one.
I'd support that, yeah.
All right. So meeting practices will be something to have a session of some kind on.
It's a good investment to make.
All right. Councilmember Lang.
Speaking of good investments to make, the residents invested in sending me and Jonathan Weinberg to the Cal Cities Conference. I just wanted to say that I think it was a very good investment. I found it very productive. There were great sessions, including a session on parking in Seal Beach, where the police captain is getting a PhD in the topic. Yeah, so a very fascinating topic of that, various other things. If you look through the agenda, there's all sorts of things. One that we both attended was about efficient ways of revising general plans, which I found fascinating. When I tried to tell my wife about it, she was skeptical, but it was great. And so I just wanted to express my personal appreciation for the residents investing and sending me that, because I learned a lot from it, both from the sessions and, of course, from all the networking you get to do with the other electeds.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll also report back on my attendance at Cal City. So I attended the opening general session and I attended 5 of the seminars. I also attended the Peninsula Division luncheon and sat through lectures for my AB 1234 and AB 1661 training. I do want to share with the council some of the points that were raised on the seminar entitled Reducing the Cost and Burden of General Plan Updates. That's the only seminar that Councilmember Lang and I attended together. It was interesting. We spoke with 2 different, or the panelists were I think 2 different city managers and a consultant that both those cities happen to use. And one of the I don't know if it's inside baseball, one of the messages was the consultant is always going to tell you that you're going to need more. If you want to save money, push back a little bit on the consultant. But just to sort of frame this, the lecture started with a sharing of average cost, kind of the low end of doing a general plan versus versus the mid-level of doing a general plan. It was broken down into 8 components. For the sake of time, I don't know what your bet was on how long it would be, but I don't want to ruin your bet. But in terms of the mid-range, the cost of the consultant is the average about $2.225 million. Staff time was 3,550 hours, and the total time to finish the project was 3.5 years. Some of the key points, some of the key recommendations made by the panelists were it's usually not necessary to start from scratch, even if you have a very old general plan. Often augmenting what you already have with principles and values is enough to get you where you need to go.
Meaningful content that is presented simply is best. Leaving studies and charts or appendices in your environmental impact report is a very effective way of doing these things. And it was interesting to me to learn that many times when a general plan is redone, the EIR just kind of disappears. Everyone on the panel was very much in favor of when you have your general plan, put your EIR there so that people can see that as well. Don't just forget about it. Don't just let it disappear. Another important point when it comes to the EIR is that EIRs apparently do not have an expiration date. So if your general plan is going to make you do some things, maybe some zoning changes, maybe something else, if your EIR to do the general plan update already covers something that you may have to do later, that EIR, if it's done properly, can save you from having to do another EIR when you're ready to do some kind of an implementing ordinance. Outreach is key to having a successful general plan update, but it's important to manage expectations. When meeting with the public, when meeting with interest groups in the city, don't just give them a blank piece of paper. Give them something to look at, something to respond to. Where these things tend to go off the rails is when members of the public think it's an opportunity to completely rethink what the city is, what its value is, what its mission is. That's not what most general plan updates are trying to do. I don't think that's what we're trying to do. Controlling that process, getting input is important, but don't just turn it into, again, a blank sheet of paper where people can kind of go and do whatever they want to do. Another seminar that I attended that I thought was very, very well done was entitled Centralizing Communications to Boost Engagement. Our city, like I think every other agency in California, we want more public engagement. And what this seminar found is that when you have a centralized place for people to get information, you can get more engagement. And the tool that was being identified here was the calendar on the city's website. So there were a couple of cities, I don't remember which cities they were, but there were a couple of cities that expanded their calendar to include, say, the school board and maybe some other civic organizations. And the reason they did that is because you're getting a wider audience coming to that calendar, and then they're seeing other things that are happening in the city. Now, it's not just a free-for-all. It has to be government speech if you're going to do that, but it's something that these two cities found was really useful. And also something else they did was they would have a drop-down menu. If someone wanted to contact a part of the city, there would be a drop-down menu that would have a lot of different choices. So if you want to, say, contest a parking ticket, and you click on this drop-down menu and you look for a contest parking ticket, you might also see application to have a block party or something else that might pique someone's interest, and they found that they're getting a lot more traffic looking for things that involve civic engagement before that was installed. So I thought it was a really interesting seminar, and it was a really interesting tool that they were presenting. The calendar that they used, it's a widget. It works with Civic Plus. It works with Granicus. It seemed really interesting to me. Another seminar I attended was on passing a sales tax. And this also is timely, of course. There were two city managers and one consultant that presented, and the city managers both said that when it comes to trying to pass a sales tax, from staff's point of view, the story really is 50 different ways to get fired. 50 different ways to get fired, because there's a lot of wrong ways to do it, not a lot of right ways to do it. There was a lot of information, I think, that we're already familiar with. We've gone through the process of what's a general tax versus special tax. But the one thing that I wanted to emphasize, and we've talked about this already, but I think it's worth emphasizing, engage stakeholders early, get their buy-in. Don't just have it out there as something amorphous. When you get people on board early, that's going to be the recipe for success. Another important thing that all of them found is that even after you're successful with the sales tax increase, it's important to continue with the engagement of the public. Let the public know what you've raised and how you are actually spending it. That way the public knows that we kept our word, and frankly, it builds trust between the government and the public. A seminar that I did not get to attend was on the status of CVRA litigation. I did get the white paper. I downloaded the white paper from that, and I've sent it to the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk. If any of my colleagues want it, I would invite you to ask them for a copy to avoid Brown Act. If anyone else is interested, you can contact me directly, and I'll send you the white paper. Something that was interesting was that when the CVRA was adopted in 2002, there were 23 cities in California that had by-district elections. In 2026, there's going to be 233 cities that have them. Let's see. There were no resolutions that made it to the floor, so I did not have the opportunity to exercise the authority granted to me by this council to abstain from voting on anything substantive. Maybe next year. At the expo, it was interesting. I'm going to send the city manager these flyers, but there was one company that is producing electric trailblazers for police cars. So I know that we're not in the market for it anytime soon, but I will send that to you and to the chief for future reference, perhaps. And also, there were a couple of different vendors who are offering bathrooms, like bathrooms that you would install outside. One of them actually had a life-size model. The other vendor had small, but since we're considering a park downtown, and one of the amenities we want to have downtown are public restrooms, I thought these were really cool. One of them said that they've already been in contact with the city. Another one is very interested in having contact with the city. But I had no idea that public restroom technology had come quite so far. It was actually really kind of amazing.
And particularly paired with services, what I
Yeah.
found attractive was not just that they would drop it off, but they were very, right, because what's the point of having it if it's nasty, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I love the name. One of them was called Throne, which, the Throne, so you can sit there and feel regal.
And that's my report from Cal Cities.
Thank you, Councilmember Weinberg. Are there any other reports? And no other agenda items?
Yeah, wait.
Yes, City Attorney?
Yes, since you have agendized the city manager's performance review, I was wondering if the council, because it's up to you under my contract, if you wanted to do my contract review and performance review at the same time, around that time. So we can put it on a future agenda and you can discuss it or not.
And it's been a while, so it might be good timing.
Do you want to review?
Because as I helped to negotiate both contracts, and there's no requirement that we do an annual evaluation. But if the city attorney has raised it, I think if majority or more of us want to do it,
Yeah, I'm
we
just
can.
raising it. It's not
Okay.
like I'm chomping at the bit for it.
My preference would just be to kick it down the road to the next mayor.
Well, you could have phrased that slightly more subtly. All right.
We're adjourned.